These are 10 female guitarists from the 1970s who helped reshape rock, blues, and jazz, and most of them never got the credit they deserved. The decade belongs to Led Zeppelin, the Eagles, and Fleetwood Mac in our collective memory, but women were also writing, playing, and performing at the highest level. Rejection letters piled up on their desks, audiences crossed their arms in doubt, and the industry kept asking them what made them think they could play guitar instead of actually listening to them play. Today, we're going to fix that, so let's talk about the women who proved them all wrong. Number 1, the pioneer. We have to start with someone most people have never heard of, and her name is Peggy Jones, better known as Lady Bo. Picture the Apollo Theater in Harlem, 1956, where a 16-year-old girl walks through the backstage area carrying her guitar case. Bo Diddley spotted her that day and stopped dead in his tracks, so stunned to see a woman with a guitar that he asked if she actually played the thing in the case. Her response tells you everything about who she became. "Do you think I'd be carrying this around for looks?" That attitude landed her the job. By 1957, Peggy Jones held the rhythm guitar position in Bo Diddley's band after the previous guitarist got drafted, which made her one of the first female rock guitarists in a major rock band, and possibly the first. Recording sessions with Diddley ran from 1957 to the early 1960s, and her playing appears on singles like Hey Bo Diddley and Roadrunner. She even wrote and played every guitar part on the instrumental Aztec, showing she could handle both rhythm and lead. And here's the thing that makes her story stand apart from so many others. Throughout her time with Diddley, she maintained her own independent career. A band called the Jewels answered to her as their leader, and they became one of the top R&B acts on the East Coast club circuit throughout the 1960s and 70s. The lineup broke conventions for its time by including both men and women, and both black and white members. San Francisco, 1970. That's when Jones rejoined Bo Diddley for a show that would give her a permanent identity. The crowd started chanting, Lady Bo, the moment he introduced her, and the nickname stuck for the rest of her career. Years later, she reflected on her pioneering role with words that still sting. "I emerged at a time when there were no other female lead guitarists, and had I been treated as a serious artist then, maybe my career would be different today." Peggy Jones died in 2015 at age 75, having earned the title Queen Mother of Guitar from everyone who knew what she accomplished. Number 2, the Groundbreakers, Fanny. Now let's jump to 1970 and talk about a band that David Bowie himself called one of the finest rock bands of their time. June and Jean Millington arrived in Sacramento, California from the Philippines in 1961 as sisters with a shared love of music. Ukulele came first, then guitar, and by the mid-1960s they bounced between bands with names like The Svelts and Wild Honey. Producer Richard Perry caught their set at the Troubadour Club in 1969, and that night changed everything. Perry convinced Warner Brothers to sign them. The band took on the name Fanny, and in 1970 they released their self-titled debut album. That release made Fanny the first all-female rock band to put out an album on a major record label, and I want to sit with that for a second. 1970, first all-female rock band on a major label. June Millington taught herself the lead guitar position in about a year after their original lead guitarist left the group. The band lived together in a Spanish-style house they called Fanny Hill, overlooking the Sunset Strip. And their third album came with Jeff Emerick at the controls, the same engineer who worked on Beatles records. Todd Rundgren produced their fourth. The year 1971 alone saw Fanny play both Fillmore West and Fillmore East, record at Apple Studios in London, and appear on The Sonny and Cher Show. 2 Billboard Hot 100 Top 40 singles followed. None of that stopped the constant skepticism, though. June Millington remembered what happened every time they walked on stage. People would sneer, but within 5 or 6 minutes, once people saw we could play, that would disappear. The pressures of the industry caught up with her in 1973, when a nervous breakdown forced her to leave Fanny. Her own words capture what happened. "Instead of caring at all, I just fell apart." Her legacy kept building after that departure. Today, June Millington runs the Institute for the Musical Arts in Massachusetts, passing on what she learned to a new generation of young women in rock. The 2021 documentary Fanny, The Right to Rock tells the band's full story. That Bowie quote deserves its full reading. They were extraordinary, they wrote everything, they played like motherfuckers, they were just colossal and wonderful, and nobody's ever mentioned them. Until now.
I am an old woman, named after my mother.
Number 3. The Slide Guitar Master. From rock, let's move to blues and to someone who did eventually get her due, but spent the entire 1970s struggling for recognition despite playing at the highest level. Bonnie Raitt came into the world in 1949, daughter of Broadway star John Raitt and pianist Marjorie Haydock. Radcliffe College accepted her to study African studies, but she dropped out to join the East Coast blues scene. What set her apart from most white artists dabbling in blues is that Raitt went straight to the source, learning directly from Mississippi Fred McDowell, Son House, Sippy Wallace, John Lee Hooker, and Muddy Waters. The summer of 1970 found her opening for Fred McDowell at the Gaslight Cafe in Greenwich Village, and a Newsweek reporter who caught her set started spreading the word. Warner Brothers came calling soon after. Her debut album landed in 1971, and critics loved it, especially her bottleneck slide guitar playing. Very few women in popular music at that time carried strong reputations as guitarists, which made Raitt stand out as one of the only women playing slide guitar at that level. 7 albums came out throughout the 1970s, and critics raved about each one. Rolling Stone put her on the cover in 1975. Record sales told a different story, though, staying modest at best. Number 25 on the top 40 in 1977, that's where her first real commercial hit landed with a bluesy cover of Del Shannon's Runaway. 2 years later, she co-founded Musicians United for Safe Energy and organized 5 concerts at Madison Square Garden featuring Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Commercial success kept slipping away from her grasp. Warner Brothers dropped her entirely by 1983 while she battled substance abuse, and her career seemed finished. Then came 1989's Nick of Time, and everything changed. But that's a story for another decade. Throughout the 1970s, Bonnie Raitt played slide guitar night after night at a level that B.B. King himself would later call the best damn slide player working today. She just had to wait 20 years for the world to catch up, and proved that teenage girls could play rock and roll just as hard as anyone. Number 5, The Innovator. Now for someone who took guitar playing in a completely different direction, and her name is Joni Mitchell. Alberta, Canada, 1943, that's where Mitchell entered the world, and polio struck her at age 9. The illness weakened her left hand, and that limitation would actually push her toward one of the most innovative guitar styles in music history. Standard tuning proved difficult with her weakened hand, so she started experimenting with alternate tunings and never stopped. Over 50 different alternate tunings, by her own count, appeared throughout her career, and if you count variations with a capo, the number exceeds 80. Keeping track of them all required her to develop her own numerical notation system. Only 2 of her songs ever got recorded in standard tuning. Mitchell once explained how she hears the guitar when she plays it, the top 3 strings being my horn section, the bottom 3 being cello, viola, and bass. Her 1970s output stands as extraordinary by any measure, with Blue arriving in 1971, Court and Spark in 1974, and the jazz-influenced Hejira in 1976. Rolling Stone called her one of the greatest songwriters ever, and perhaps the most important and influential female recording artist of the late 20th century. One version of Rolling Stone's list of the 100 greatest guitarists included her name, the only woman on that particular list. Mitchell's approach to the guitar never focused on speed or technical showmanship. Finding new sounds, new harmonies, new ways to make 6 strings tell a story that drove everything she did. Decades later, guitarists are still trying to figure out her tunings. Number 6, the jazz virtuoso. Let's shift to jazz and to a guitarist whose career ended far too soon. Emily Remler arrived in New Jersey in 1957 and picked up her first guitar at 10, initially listening to Jimi Hendrix and Johnny Winter. Berklee College of Music in the 1970s introduced her to jazz, and everything changed from that point forward. The work of Wes Montgomery, Charlie Christian, and Joe Pass consumed her completely. Graduation came at 18, and she moved to New Orleans to play blues and jazz clubs. The Concord Jazz Festival in 1978 brought a turning point when jazz legend Herb Ellis introduced her alongside guitarists like Barney Kessel and Tal Farlow. Ellis called her the new superstar of guitar. Her recording career started in 1981, and album after album of sophisticated bebop, bossa nova, and fusion followed. Downbeat Magazine's international poll named her Guitarist of the Year in 1985, the same year she performed at Carnegie Hall. Her drummer Bob Moses captured what set her apart. That loose, relaxed feel. She swung harder and simpler. She didn't have to let you know that she was a virtuoso in the first 5 seconds. Remler had a sense of humor about her position as a woman in the male-dominated jazz world. A 1982 interview captured it perfectly. "I may look like a nice Jewish girl from New Jersey, but inside I'm a 50-year-old, heavy-set black man with a big thumb, like Wes Montgomery." When asked how she wanted people to remember her, she answered, "Good compositions, memorable guitar playing, and my contributions as a woman in music. But the music is everything, and it has nothing to do with politics." 32 years old, on tour in Australia. That's when Emily Remler died in 1990. Her brief career proved that women could hold their own in the most demanding genre in music.
On that discotheque floor, you were driving me out of my mind. Oh, but I could have sworn that I saw something more.
Number 7, the rock star. Finally, we have to talk about Suzi Quatro, who technically plays bass, but absolutely belongs on this list. Detroit, 1950. That's where Quatro started life, and by age 8, she was playing bongos in her father's jazz band. Her mid-teens brought an all-girl group with her sisters called the Pleasure Seekers, and in 1967, they even flew to Guam to entertain wounded Vietnam troops. British producer Mickey Most saw her perform in 1971 and offered to take her to London. She moved across the Atlantic, spent a year perfecting her craft, and then emerged onto the glam rock scene wearing a black leather jumpsuit with her bass slung low around her hips. Can the Can hit #1 in the UK, Australia, and across Europe in 1973, and Devil Gate Drive did the same in 1974. 50 million records worldwide, that's what her sales total. Suzi Quatro became the first female bass player to become a major rock star. One academic paper called her a female rock pioneer. In some ways, the female rock pioneer, a cornerstone in the archaeology of rock. Her response to doubters about women playing bass never wavered. They say women cannot play bass. They say that. Bullshit. American audiences never connected with her music the same way, and her only U.S. Top 40 hit came with Stumblin' In 1978. For a generation of young women in Britain, Europe, and Australia, Suzi Quatro proved that a woman could front a rock band, play her own instrument, and command a stage.
And the Grammy goes to...
So there you have it, 10 women who picked up guitars and basses in the 1970s and changed what anyone thought possible. Recognition eventually found some of them, with Bonnie Raitt winning her Grammys, Joan Jett making the Hall of Fame, and Joni Mitchell earning the title of Genius. June Millington, Peggy Jones, and Emily Remler remain far less known than their contributions deserve. 50%, that's the share of new guitarists today who are female, according to a recent Fender study. The 1970s told these women they couldn't play, shouldn't play, or needed to lose the guitar. They didn't listen, they played anyway, and every woman who picks up a guitar today owes them something. If you learned something new today, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know which of these guitarists you're going to check out first. Thanks for watching.